All right, now that we have Docker installed, let's look for an image where we can run PHP and a web server. Let's go to Docker, hubdocker.com, and we search for PHP Image. And remember, an image is like a small Linux operating system with PHP inside, okay? Already installed and ready for us. Here we have PHP Image, and we have different tags. Every time we take a PHP image and put something inside, we can tag that image and create a new image, and we can use that image for further projects, and we can add another layer to this image and tag it and have it another image in order to create containers out of this image. Once we're here, we can search for Apache so that we can have also Apache installed in the same image, and we can combine PHP and Apache as a web server. You can see here that we have different Apache tags. We have this one, and we can click, for example, this link, and we can take a look inside. This is the different layers that this image has. You can see all the commands, the Docker Compose command that we have. For example, we have the add command in order to add files, cmd in order to execute a command, env in order to create environment variables, and things like that. Some of the interesting layers that you can see here is the WORKDIR, that it indicates that this is the working directory, var www html. It means that we need to copy our local files into this folder or map a folder from our computer into the container so that we can modify these files inside our folders, and these modifications are automatically replicated inside the container. It's like a link between our folder to the container folder. And you can see that it exposes port 80, and then we can map this port 80, that is the web server, to any port that we want to our computer. Okay, so you can also see here PHP_version that is 8.1.3. So we could use this image in order to test PHP. And here you can see that we can choose what platform we want to use, for example, Linux AMD. And then, for example, if we're in Mac, we can choose this platform, Linux ARM 64 version 8. But when we launch a Docker pull or Docker run, it will choose the right platform for us. Okay, let's give it a try. You can see that this is the tag that we can use. PHP is the image name. And then after the semicolon, we have the tag that we want to use. So if you're on Windows, just search for Ubuntu 2004 LTS. That's the one that we previously installed, so that we can launch every command from the Linux system, okay? For example, here I'm on home idran. That's the user that I created when I installed Ubuntu. And if we type in ls-al, we can see all the content that we have here. For example, I created a symbolic link from MNT, that's the mount point that our Linux distribution is using in order to mount our local file system. So if we go into MNT and we list everything that we have here, you can see that I have the C drive, the D drive, H drive, etc. So I have my projects under D and then projects. So I mapped that folder, mount D projects, to projects in my Linux distribution. So what you have to do is go to home and then the username that you chose when you install Ubuntu. In my case, it's idran. And then you can create a symbolic link, or you can go inside that project, for example, where you have the PHP projects. But with a symbolic link, it's faster to get to that folder. So you create a symbolic link with, for example, ln-s, and then you give the route to your folder, to the folder that you want to mount. For example, let's suppose that we want to mount D and then projects and then Docker, for example. Okay, let's type in ls-al, and you can see here that now we have Docker here. So if we cd into Docker, I have this folder, and inside I have also a folder called PHP projects. So I go inside this project, PHP projects, and I open already that folder with PHP Storm, and you can see that I'm inside here. So what we're gonna do is create an index.php file and we're going to type in PHP info so that we can have info about the PHP installation that we're going to use with that image. So once we're inside that folder, we can launch this command that you already saw in our previous lesson, and that's docker run -d, so that the process is in detached mode and we can use the terminal afterwards. Then we have to tell what port we want to use, so we can put -p, and we're gonna say that we wanna use port 8000 of our computer host to map port 80 from the container. Okay, and then we have to tell also that we want to map this folder, PHP project, into var www HTML folder that we saw here. That is the working directory that we have inside the container. So everything that we put here inside HTML, then we can access it through localhost and then the name of the directory that we're gonna create. So let's go back to Ubuntu and let's map our current directory, that is PHP project, with that directory. And we can tell that to Docker with this command. -v, it means volume. It's going to create a volume. And a volume, you can imagine a volume as a drive or as a folder that is shared between the host computer and the container. So we have to tell that we want to map the present working directory, and we can access this environment variable that is pwd. It means this current directory. Then semicolon, you have to pass var www HTML, because that's the folder that we saw before where Apache is gonna have its working directory. And finally, we have to tell what image we want to use. So we saw that we have to use PHP, and let's take a look at it again. PHP with the Apache tag. Let's go back and semicolon Apache. I don't have this image, so Docker is gonna pull that image into its repository, and then it's gonna use that image in order to create a container with these settings. Let's press enter. You can see that it is not locally this image, it's been launched. And let's type docker ps, and you can see here that we have the container ID. The image is PHP Apache. The command is the normal docker PHP entry point that is going to be executed when the container is up. And you can see here that we're mapping port 80 from the container into port 8000. So if we go ahead and type in localhost 8000, you can see that the script executed and we have this version of PHP here. Let's, for example, change something inside, and let's put from here, for example, echo, and let's put h1 hello world. Now, if we save, this modification is going to be reflected right away here inside the container. You can see that we have hello world.